to all the loving mothers, doting fathers, guardians, and curious listeners. Welcome back to another engaging episode of Unveiling a New View to Parenting. I'm your ever enthusiastic host, Nikki, eager to guide you through the mesmerizing labyrinth of parenthood with a pinch of humor, a dash of sarcasm, and a colossal load of engaging content. Today, we're embarking on an epic adventure, an expedition every parent has to undertake, the exciting yet slightly terrifying journey of transitioning your infant to solid foods. Around the 6-month mark, parents worldwide transform into culinary explorers, venturing into the land of mashed bananas, pureed peas, and sippy cups of water. So fasten your seatbelts because we'll dive into this delightful, chaotic headfirst. For this voyage, we've enlisted an expert navigator who has crossed this terrain multiple times and emerged victorious. They've grappled with the fears, experimented with techniques, and developed an actionable plan to turn this transition into a thrilling adventure rather than an uphill battle. I'm excited today to introduce Cerina, who has over a decade of experience in culinary nutrition with a strong concentration in nutrition consulting. Welcome, Cerina. So glad to have you here today.
Thank you.
So without further ado, let's satiate our curiosity and delve into this enlightening conversation. To kick things off, could you shed some light on why transition to solids is such a monumental milestone for infants and their parents? What's cooking in the background?
Yeah, so the transition to solids is such a monumental milestone for infants and their parents. It's because this is your baby's first milestone of their development out of 8 milestones as a part of growing and starting the transition to introducing other foods besides your breast milk gallon formula. Their taste buds are about to become alive, and as parents, you will always remember their first of everything. And eating something new will be always memorable, right? So according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, they recommend introducing solids to babies when they are between ages 4 to 6 months. However, when you are conversing with, your child's pediatrician, they do tell you that starting foods at 6 months is when they're, attentive, they're reaching, their interest, they're observing food that you are eating. So therefore, at this point, they can actually start to have solid foods, right? And when you see that they're holding up their head and they're holding their necks, overall they're acting a little bit more independently. That's when you can 100% know that they're really ready to start introducing solids into their diet. And then also just another, some more information out there is that at 6 months, the introduction to solid foods does help babies learn to eat, right? And you're giving them experience of new tastes, new textures, and just overall a range and variety of foods. So overall, we're helping develop their teeth and jaws while also building other skills that they will need for other development, right? And so just from my perspective a bit, I have a newborn, she's 8 months, and my perspective is that when you are introducing solids to them, you want to make sure that the food is well cooked, right? You want to make sure that it's ground, pureed, or mashed. Introducing foods such as like carrots, squash, pumpkin, sweet potato, green beans, peas, avocado. Those are like the first things that you want to introduce to your child. And then you want to introduce like more of the sweet things. So introducing savory first is obviously going to be important because fruit, sweet things, it's just going to be easier for your child. But when you are trying new puree food items, you want to make sure you're trying something every 4 to 5 days. You want to keep trying that same food item for 4 to 5 days, and then you can eventually venture out to other food items, and also making sure that you're keeping in mind and monitoring any allergic reactions and or food sensitivities that could occur with your baby.
Certainly, and I'm sure that your experience with all of this brings a trove of tricks and techniques. So maybe you could share some of those most effective strategies for transitioning to solids that make this journey smooth and enjoyable for both the infant and the parent.
Absolutely. So there are actually a few effective strategies that I think with transitioning to solids will overall make it very much memorable, enjoyable for not only the parent, but for the child as well. So for me, and just based on science evidence is that you want to create a routine. Routines are really, really, really important. And we know that in routines, understanding that solids takes time. So you really want to keep in mind that majority of their nutrients is still coming from your breast milk and or formula, right? You want to also introduce a variety of foods that include like iron and zinc, which are really important nutrients in the second half of your baby's first year. And they can be found in pureed meats, beans, lentils, whole grain oatmeal, berries, avocados. Those
Mm.
are just some of the items that you can introduce into your child's diet. And you, the parent, you be creative, right? This is the time that you're spending with your child, bonding, making memories. You know, you can always tell your child later in life that, oh, mom made you a whole vegan, you know, brownie with like black beans, you know, we used cocoa, we used almond milk, right? All of these, like, you know, you just really want to be creative when you are, you know, doing these different recipes and trying these different foods with your child. At least for me, I journal everything with my child, from
Oh,
like everything from, like, you know, okay, she tried her first sweet potato today, or she had her first roasted sweet potato. I journal everything of my child's first time eating something, because I know that it's crazy. She's my first child, but I want her to. For me, it's memory and just capturing her face and her expression and her taste buds. Like, for example, the first time I introduced my child into green beans, she was gagging. She did not like it. And I tried it multiple times and she just did not like it. It seemed like at first, the second time I had it, she was like, and then she gagged. And so she wasn't liking it. The third time, she was gagging. So again, just being creative as a parent and just, you know, keeping open dialogue with your child as it relates to, you know, obviously your child can't help, but just keeping that open expression and creating that memorable experience with your child, I believe is super, super, super important. And so another strategy is to prepare baby food at home. We know that there are a lot of prepared foods that you can find in the grocery store. And those are pretty much for parents that are on the go. It's, you know, it's quick, easy for the parent. But I find that when you're able to prepare baby food at home, again, as I mentioned before, you're making the experience a little bit more memorable. And also you can try with baby-led weaning methods, right? So instead of buying or making specific foods to feed your baby, you're able to prepare the same meal for the whole family with modifications as needed. I do find that the baby-led weaning method is important because it actually does have some actually has a lot of benefits, and it offers multiple advantages for the families and the babies. For example, it saves the parents times and money. You know, it helps the baby experience valuable social interactions at the table with the family. It also exposes your baby to diverse foods. It also helps hone the importance of the development skills. And overall, it makes meals manageable when you actually try the baby-led weaning method. Another strategy that I would like to just share with you is, you know, the do's and the don'ts, right? So for the do's, you want to go slow. You want to keep things simple and healthy. You follow your baby's cues as much as he or she wants to eat. And, you know, you let them explore and be involved as much as possible. You give your baby plenty of water throughout the day in a sippy cup, and always check with your child's pediatrician about your baby's growth and or development. Don'ts for that is going to be, don't put food in a bottle. I've seen it, and I just don't understand why people put the food in the baby's bottle. Don't put food in a baby bottle. Allow them to take things, you know, put it on their palate, let them taste it, let them be involved, let them explore the different textures and flavors as it relates to food, right? And don't ever give a baby food larger than the baby's fingertip, right? Also be mindful of any like sharp food and or choking hazardous like grapes. And if you're going to introduce them to grapes, make sure that they're really mashed. And also do not give them hot dogs. You definitely want to avoid cow's milk until after their first year. And lastly, don't give up. You know, have the baby try each food multiple times. As I mentioned before, I tried, you know, sugar snap green peas with my child at least 6 times until she felt comfortable with eating it. And, you know, I tried different cooking methods, from steaming to blanching to roasting, everything. Just try different things to actually introduce them to that. And then also lastly, be prepared for the messes, right? And my thing is accept and embrace everything that comes your way with your child. And that's just a way of you becoming more familiar with your child and creating that bond with your child, especially learning them as they grow and develop.
Ah, what wonderful insights. I could attest to the mess with two toddlers. We started at 6 months, baby-led weaning. I'm so glad you covered this topic. It's a
Yes.
little bit of a modern technique, and I think it
Mm-hmm.
works so well. Just with
Mm-hmm.
everything as they grow, develop, and have the sense of autonomy, I think it
Yeah.
also helps alleviate the picky eating later on in life. It's so
Mm-hmm.
important.
Absolutely.
But we also know that the journey to solids isn't a one size fits all always. So,
Mm-hmm.
how can parents tailor this transition to suit their infant's unique pace and preferences while ensuring they receive a wholesome, balanced diet?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, as you mentioned before, solids isn't a one size fits all. It definitely is not. One thing that I know that parents can tailor to this transition is to be patient. This new process requires persistence and tolerance because your baby is learning a new skill. Um, Also, I would say individualizing your child's food intake, right? So as we mentioned before, feeding methods aren't always one size fits all, and you don't have to do things in a certain way because each child is different, right? And so what does that mean? You as the parent recognizes the infant's cues of hunger or satiety and responds promptly to these cues. Also, knowing some factors to be considered when determining, the appropriate time when you introduce your child to solids into your infant diet, right? You think of age, you think of appetite, and you think of the growth rate. These are three main factors that you should highly consider, right? So with age, some people consider age, but don't let it be the determining factor, right? So most parents may start their child to solids around 6.5 months to 7 months, where parents do find that their infants are truly ready for solids, right? However, focus on the infant's physical readiness while also being able to observe the signs such as sitting with support, right? The loss of tongue thrust reflect, and development of fine motor skills, curiosities of food, and overall an increased nutritional need, where you as a parent can confidently assess your infant's readiness to solid foods. I can just give my experience. Again, I'm a new mom, and my mom would say, "Oh yeah, she's 4 months. Give her some food. She'll be fine." That's just the culture of what it was. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable giving my baby food yet. I want them to be a little bit more developed. She's not quite sitting up on her own yet. Yeah, she's looking at me while I'm eating, and she's super observant. But I know when I feel confident to introduce her to solids. Also for appetite, right? So we're eating for our nutritional need, right? So breast milk and or formula will continue to be the primary source of nutrition for your babies in their first year. However, keep in mind that when you are introducing solids into their diet, you want to make sure that it's small. You're not giving them like a full plate of food, right? Because again, as I mentioned, a lot of their nutrients is still coming from formula or your breast milk. So you want to give about, a 3 tablespoons, a 3 tablespoons of whether it's a fruit or a vegetable or pureed meat, being mindful again that most of their nutritional needs is being met through your breast milk still and or formula. And then the growth rate, right? So waiting for your infant to show any physical or physiological capabilities allows for the proper growth and development that can reduce the risk of any potential complications that can come in the future, right? So there are some negative consequences when you introduce your child too early, right? The infant's digestive system and developmental readiness needs time to mature before they can actually and effectively handle solid foods by themselves.
Oh gosh, it's so true. And of course, we've talked about so many monumental, practical
Mm,
ways to do that. So let's talk about the philosophy of it.
yeah.
And it's a beautiful ending question. How can this transition lay the foundation for a healthy relationship with you with food in the future. We talked a little bit about the picky eating habits, so we can shed some light on that. I guess how can we use the space to instill good eating habits that last a lifetime?
Yeah, I love this question, Nikki. And I think it's important that you as the parent continue to set a strong foundation for your child as it comes to eating, because I've consulted so many parents with picky eaters, and it just blows my mind, honestly. But when you're laying a foundation of, for your child, a healthy and positive relationship with food by raising a competent eater is the foundation, right? And you're helping your child develop to learn how to nourish their bodies and eat the right amount that they would need as adults. And this is going to follow them all the way up until they're adult, right? So when you're setting the foundation, that means that you won't have to scramble to figure out feeding when your child grows, and help them to have a hell and hearty relationship with food. So they want to have a love for real and tasty food as they grow. And then how to build, safe and balanced meals. You're learning how to serve safe and appropriate meals with your infant, with the focus on helping them to thrive, and also having feeding principles. Overall, learning the how of feeding is really important part of your child's overall long-term feeding success. And so therefore, as you, the parent, you create these healthy habits for your child's nutrition intake, and it will see them through for the rest of their childhood while reinforcing effective approaches such as, a structure plan, planning the nutrients, and overall just planning the individualized experience for you and your child.
Thank you, Cerina, so much for making this transition feel like a little bit of a less alien terrain and more like a familiar path. We're all set to apply these strategies, hopefully armed with a newfound understanding and enthusiasm. So glad to have you here. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me, Nikki.
Listeners, as we wrap up this enlightening episode, let's take a moment to appreciate the shared journey of parenthood. Remember, at misspoppins.io, we're here to make this expedition less daunting and more fulfilling. You'll find many resources ranging from riveting research studies to fun-filled videos designed to empower you in your unique parenting journey. And for a touch of magic at your fingertips, download the Miss Poppins app. Access a vast network of childcare experts and parenting coaches, each offering unique expertise to cater to your specific needs. With just a few clicks, you can purchase packages, bringing you one step closer to mastering the art of parenting. As we conclude today's episode, remember that every new phase and transition is an opportunity to learn, adapt, and grow together with your little ones. Until our next exploration into the captivating realm of parenting, this is your host, Nikki, signing off from Unveiling a New View to Parenting. Stay curious, informed, and above all, compassionate. Catch you in the next episode.